What's going on, everyone? This is Brian Turner here with another episode of the No Stress Midwest podcast. It's hard to believe we're here in season 6 right now. I know I keep saying that because I'm still kind of wrapping my head around 6 seasons of this podcast and people not getting annoyed with my voice, nor has our talent or our guests dropped off over those 6 seasons. Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by Chioma. Chioma, remind me how to pronounce your last name again?
Antanmo.
Antanmo.
Yes.
Chioma Antanmo. For the people listening, don't mess that up.
Yes.
I've done it once, and I'm still getting looked at to this day. It's a few years ago. Chioma, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing great. It's always good hanging out with you. You know, I feel like Chioma and I met through the Black Soccer Coaches,
Yes.
I believe, with the United Soccer Coaches a few years ago. And I think mostly it was she was the only person in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh,
hi,
wow,
how
look,
are you?
you're in KC
Yeah.
Sporting. What? We had Mario that was in at the time, I think, for a little bit. Shout out to Mario and Sparkle.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Chioma and I just kind of had this connection. We were going out grabbing coffee together, just kind of staying up. You know, we're in the same space ish, but just on different paths and different lanes. We're on the same highway, just
Yes.
different lanes, right? But
Yes.
ultimately, we both want to keep rising to the top. Chioma's got, excuse my language, a lot of badass things going for her. So I'm really excited to have you on. I think your perspective and your kind of career path is a little different than some of our other guests. I believe you've got your own business I want to talk about, but into the mental health side and just taking care of you. If anyone follows Chioma, you look at her stories, you know it's the most inspirational thing.
Oh, thank you.
I've learned now to stretch and warm up before working out because Chioma's going through a little bit of a ding there. But Chioma, let's kind of get into it, okay?
Yeah.
So let's just start off. What is your current job title? And what are some of your roles and responsibilities? What's a day-to-day like for you, if there is a day-to-day?
Yeah. First off, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And it's so funny, whenever I get asked that question, I'm always just like, okay, what day is it? What week is it? Are we in season? Are we in off season? Because that always dictates
A lot
what
of
my
factors.
day will look like. But my title is Director of Community Impact for Sporting Kansas City.
Okay.
My role right now evolves around, we have player appearances, coordinating that and helping players with their community initiatives. We work with the partnerships marketing team. So we have a lot of partners who are interested in just activating within the community. So combining our resources to understand how we can have a greater impact, managing volunteer opportunities for our front office associates. Recently, community impact kind of branched off from our work of the Victory Project.
Yep.
So a lot of our work in community impact complements what our foundation does. So on any day, it could be, just meetings of figuring out how can we activate a really cool idea just from, okay, this is an idea, who do we need to involve? Who are the key contacts, and then how does this all happen?
Yeah.
So it's really fun because I do feel like we're almost like I feel like an entrepreneur within my role, because I get to just create things out of thin air and just rally people behind a fun cause. And people rarely say no to me. So I think that's also a fun part of my job. People get excited about the work we do.
Yeah, well, you've mentioned a few things I kind of want to talk into. But you've mentioned like just kind of creating things from an idea into real life. And I think being an entrepreneur and someone that enjoys creating in general, right? Like there's so much power in like having an idea up here and no one else sees it, no one's heard of it, blah blah blah. And then a year, 2 years, 6 months, it's like a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, like to me, like that gets me excited. Like, yeah, I did that.
I did that. Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
I did that. So okay, you talked about the Victory Project a little bit as well, and No Stress Midwest is a proud recipient of the help that the Victory Project, and you were kind of over that for a while before you've moved into your new role. But what are some of the I guess the inspirations behind that victory project, and when you all would select a organization such as myself that was applying for a grant, or when
Yeah.
you all would like bring people down to the first team trainings and they
Yeah.
get, I think Brinley was one.
Friendly, yes, she was one of
Yes,
them. Yeah.
yes, and
Hmm.
then they were up in the suite at a
Yes.
game, and you kind of give them experience. So what like goes into, let's get to like the people that are meeting the players and all
Yeah.
that. How does that work?
Yeah, so there's two parts of that, but I'll kind of backtrack to when I first got to sporting. I started off in the youth soccer department.
And quick, how
Yeah,
long ago were you with sport? How long have you been with them, or when
yeah,
are you referring to?
yeah. So I moved to Kansas City is April 2018. So
Okay.
this is my sixth season with the club.
6 seasons.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
So April 2018, you're starting at the bottom. You're at the youth level, right?
so it's like yes and no
Okay.
because before I got to Kansas City, I worked for a PDL team
Okay.
called FC Tucson, and then Phoenix Rising had recently purchased FC Tucson, and so I managed MLS preseason, and
Okay.
so Sporting was one of the first clubs that came and used our facilities in Tucson, Arizona, which is about 90 minutes south of Phoenix, and in 2011, it was still when David Beckham was playing. As
Mm-hmm.
a former soccer player, I was just like, this looks cool.
Yeah.
I don't really know a lot about MLS, but they were just looking for volunteers. And so it's crazy to think that I've known about the sporting organization since 2011. And then when I climbed up the ranks in Arizona and hit my ceiling there,
Mm-hmm.
I made a list of all of the MLS clubs that I wanted to work for. And Sporting was one of the top three.
Okay.
We had close to 15 professional soccer teams using our facilities. And so we had teams from
All over
the
them.
Netherlands,
Yeah.
Croatia, South
Yeah.
Korea, all kinds of teams. So when I moved to Kansas City, I was just wanted a foot in the door. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to work in the front office. So youth soccer had a position opened, started doing tournaments and events.
Okay.
And what I realized was okay, there's a large population of kids that obviously don't have access to a lot of our events, or there's
For
just some
sure.
kind of financial barrier there. So within our tournaments and events, I was trying to, identify who those groups were and trying to find a way to get them involved in our programs.
Mm-hmm.
And then a position opened up on the Victory Project side. So then I made the switch there in
Okay.
2020. And 2021, the Victory Project was on Sporting Kansas City's jersey.
Okay. Yes.
And
Yeah. It was.
yeah, so that was the
I
first
might have
time
that. I
a
might even have that.
nonprofit.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. It was the
Yeah. Go ahead.
first
Say it.
time
Yeah. Say the statement. It was the first
first
time.
time a nonprofit was featured on an MLS jersey. And so, yeah, it was a big deal. And so we looked at that as I surveyed all the different departments and asked, like, who's doing great work in the community?
Yeah.
And a lot of us were, but we didn't have a mission or a story to really tell that under.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2021, we expanded the mission of the Victory Project to support kids with cancer, but then we added in helping kids with financial needs and helping kids with special needs.
Okay.
And that pillar is called Soccer for All Kids. And so the grant that you're talking about is in one of the programs that we created from that. So in 2022, I was like, okay, how much roughly does it cost to, buy equipment, or what are tournament fees? What does that look like? And so the Soccer Assist grant was birthed in 2022, and basically organizations that serve within the soccer community
Mm-hmm.
can get anywhere from $500 to $2,500. We're cutting checks every 30 to 60 days. So our goal was that, yes, we cannot solve the pay to play model, but
You can
we
do
can
a
just
part to
help
help. Yeah.
kids, if there's a barrier, if you just want to get to a tournament,
Yep.
let's keep you in the game there,
Yep.
because we know that, kids in their teen years are dropping off from sports.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the Soccer Assist grant came from.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, and on top of a tournament, there's league fees, there's travel fees, there's getting carded, players carded,
Yeah,
traveling. There's,
food
yeah, I mean,
and
there's, yep,
uniforms and
yeah, uniform. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. On top of, right, anywhere from 2,500 to $3,500 a year
yeah,
has to be get paid
yeah,
just to survive, and then
yeah,
anything else you want to do extra, right?
hmm
So I mean, the pay to play model, I definitely think is something that's plaguing. I use that term kind of loosely, but not really.
Yeah.
Um, Youth sports, especially in soccer, where it's for whatever reason, predominantly a middle class sport,
Mhm.
upper middle class, when a lot of the best athletes and players, and it goes like this for all sports, not just
Yeah.
soccer, are usually not in that middle class and upper to middle
Mhm.
class. But they did this huge initiative way back when where they added a basketball court everywhere and tennis courts everywhere so people could
Yeah.
play. And now there's stuff trying, I know Casey Curran opened up one or two mini pitches, right, where
Mhm.
they're just kind of taking over a tennis court, adding two goals at the end, and boom.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of stuff that I feel like you've identified it and you're trying to do your part, but you
Yeah.
also understand that you're not
We
solving
can't
world
do every
hunger.
yeah,
Sporting
exactly.
can't solve that, right? You can
Yeah.
just try to help someone not be as hungry,
Yes.
and I think that's what you all are doing. I've seen a lot of recipients, right? I mentioned Brinley. There's Riot Goku, who I know you all work
Mhm.
with.
Yeah.
Um,
We've given grants to Boys and Girls Clubs, Maddie Rhodes, Guadalupe Centers. We opened up a shared mini pitch with the current back
okay,
in October. We have close to 24 mini pitches across Kansas and Missouri.
okay,
And the Victory Project recently just gave Kansas State School for the Blind
hmm,
money to fund a blind soccer court, which is $30,000. And so even with our Central Bank Northland complex,
there we go.
we have one of the very first power soccer courts. And so we
Okay,
partnered with Variety KC on that court. So it's allowing kids in wheelchairs to play outside.
awesome.
And so again, like we can't like solve everything,
No, but
but
you've
identifying
seen problems and you're
exactly.
trying to solve it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's
That's
life,
all what we
right?
can
Yeah,
do. Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
what.
And let people know that they're there. I think that's one part is I get tons of emails that people are like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? What about this? What about that? And I was like, hey, actually,
We are.
it's here.
Boom,
It's
here's the
here.
link. Here's the link.
So,
Yeah. Well, I feel like, and I know you can attest to it because you just said it. One thing people love doing is telling you what you should be doing.
yes.
You know what you should do? And I'm like, no, I
Tell
haven't been
tell
doing
me
anything.
more.
Please tell me. How can I spend my time?
Yeah.
So but then I feel like there's always a way to say it.
Yes.
And I'm not by any means saying I'm not listening to anyone's ideas. But when it starts off with, you know what you should do? I got an idea for you. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this idea is so great and it's going to make so much money. Why don't you do it?
Hmm.
Why are you trying to make me rich?
Yeah.
So no, I'm with you there, but I mean, all jokes aside, right? The stuff that you all are doing and that you've been a part of, I think is really great, and it's what's helping. Like you said, soccer for all, but
Hmm.
the the big problem is not everyone's able to play the game. Not everyone
Right.
has access to it. So by you just opening one mini pitch, nonetheless
Hmm.
24 of them,
Hmm.
like that's just making the game more accessible to the kids and to the family that can't drive out south
Right.
to Shields or Garmin or Paragon or Compass Mineral or the
Yeah.
names of any other 20 freaking turf
I know.
complexes.
Yeah.
Even the ones that can't come downtown to the soccer lot here or it's a soccer
Hmm.
dome. It's how do you bring it to them instead of always trying to pluck people out of their
Right.
environment to come to you.
Hmm.
So with the projects you've been working on,
Hmm.
what would you say is one of your favorites? I'll just say
Yeah.
one of your favorites to work on, one of your favorite like ideas that came into something.
Yeah.
What was or I won't say favorite because people might get upset with your answer.
Yeah.
What's been some of your most
Yeah.
memorable? And that
Uh
way we can hear bad ones too. If you wanna.
yeah. Well, I'll say the scholarship and grant program was probably one of my favorite projects
Okay.
because on one hand that was one of the first like projects where it's kind of like I had the idea, mapped out all of the ways it can go wrong,
Yeah.
met with all the right people, ran into a lot of red tape, and then boom, it happened. And it was kind of like, look what happens when you speak up, or look what happens when you have an idea that people believe in.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool to see that come to life and understanding that we've given out close to six figures of money through the scholarship and the grant program, which just
Mhm.
started last year. So in my head, it's like, if that didn't happen, what would be?
That's all that money,
Yeah,
and those are all those opportunities that are
exactly.
not happening now.
Exactly. So that was fun. You talked about Brinley, one of our honorees. And so the Victory Project identifies a kid who's either been like undergoing cancer treatments, cancer is part of their story, they have some kind of special need, and we bring them out to a game. Before the game, we actually bring them to training. They get to
Hmm.
meet the players. We get them a custom jersey with their name on it. They get to bring a couple guests with them to training. They get a team photo, and then we put them in a hotel, Great Wolf Lodge,
Oh man, Great Wolf
around
Lodge.
yeah
Wow, look at
around
that.
the corner from the
Okay.
stadium,
Yeah.
because some of our honorees aren't
Yeah.
local.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So we'll
Yep.
put them in a hotel, and then they get to come to the game. They get to sit in Victory Suite. It's all inclusive. They get, all their favorite snacks. We ask them what their favorite snacks and foods are. I remember one honoree was like, I like mac and cheese and mashed potatoes. And we,
Cotton mac and cheese.
yeah,
Hey, you get Jamie
yeah,
down at Compass
yeah,
Minerals. Listen, she can whip up
yes.
anything.
Oh my gosh. So it's just,
Anything. Yeah.
so I was like, here's your
Mac and
mashed
cheese
potatoes.
and mashed potatoes.
And we had another kid who loved Takis. That was his only thing. And I remember when he walked up, he was like, Takis! And just the joy on his face.
Yeah.
So being a part of identifying who those families are and then
Mhm.
walking the families through what this process is. Because a lot of times, too, our goal is just to give them some moments of joy to forget about what they're going through.
For sure.
And so a lot of the families are like overwhelmed by the generosity of
Yeah, yeah,
everything,
yeah.
or they're kind of like, okay, what do I have to
What?
do? We're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
nothing, it's
Yep.
just, and they're like,
Just take our good gesture, but
yeah,
that shows you how not common
yes,
good gestures are to people. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Where you're at like, ah, it seems too good to be true, and it's like,
mm-hmm,
no, it's not.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
like
this is a
but
part of our, that's the one thing that when I first got to sporting was the like customer service
yeah.
and the experience, and we're very much like, what's the experience like of everybody who comes through the stadium.
Mhm.
And so doing everything through that lens has taught me that it's the little details, like asking what their favorite foods and snacks
Yep.
are, having their name customized on their
On the jersey,
jersey,
yeah,
having the cauldron chant their name, and they're
yeah.
like,
Wow, who are these weird people,
yeah.
mom?
And it's funny, they either have like one or two reactions. They love it, or
Yeah,
like sometimes they freeze, and it's,
yeah, like
we've had kids cry because they're just like,
ah,
ah. Then there's
so
like,
much emotion.
no,
They're like, ah, don't
imagine
not.
the whole stadium
Yeah,
chanting your
yeah.
name, and you're like,
Well,
and it's only for like their faces on the camera for like 30 seconds, but it feels
yeah, like
like
forever.
forever.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No,
yeah.
that's. I mean, and to me, it's what I love about coaching and being in the game at the various levels. Whether it's I'm training a 6 year old or I'm working with a professional athlete.
Mhm.
The one thing I enjoy is the feeling you see when they score a goal or when a goal gets
Yeah.
scored. No matter the age, it's the same reaction. It's
Hmm.
just you're a little kid just freaking out there
Yeah.
on the pitch, putting the ball in the back of the net. And when you can see people's like that, when you can see kids, their reactions to that, then you see a professional the same way.
Hmm.
I've introduced some of my kids that I train. I've had some sporting players, some KC Current players come in,
Hmm.
some KC Comets players, and
Yeah.
these kids' faces are just like I
Hmm.
mean, I had one time shout out to AD French came in and this girl who never shuts up during our training. I mean, this girl talks while she's drinking water. She's just
Yeah.
freaking. AD walked down and this girl was speechless. Like just
Yeah.
couldn't even think. And
Yeah.
we go to take a picture. She looks awkward as heck in the picture with AD. And I'm like, and
uh,
then AD, leaves, right? She was there a little earlier, and so she goes to leave, and the girl like after is all talking again, and I'm like, no, 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 no,
yeah.
no, no. Where was this? But to her and
Yeah.
the mom texted me after. She was like, this was the first women's professional soccer player that my daughter
Mm,
has seen, in like
yeah.
not just in person because she's gone to KC Current games, but she touched her And
Mhm.
that stuff makes a huge difference when
Yes.
you can put your hands on that person, whether
Mhm.
it's Alan Polito, Johnny Russell, Shallowy, Kyrie, friggin' Fonte, whoever it is, Tim
Yeah.
Melia, when
Mhm.
you can like, oh my God, that's him.
That's a real
I
person.
touched like,
Yes.
look, he touched me, he said my name,
Yeah.
you know, and for that moment, you're like, that person who I admire, who I've seen on TV, knows who I am.
Mhm.
And those are memories that you're creating
Yeah.
that you will never, ever, ever, ever forget.
And you brought up a good point of, just the the kids looking up to the athletes, but
Mm,
then I also get to see like our players' reactions to like some of the kids coming from like really tragic stories,
mm-hmm.
or just, you know, some kids may not make it, or
Yep.
some kids are just physically don't look well, and the players are just like, man, like I have a daughter that age, or my son was that age, or like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, like how are they going through this? And so our players are also inspired by a lot of the kids that they get
That
to
are
meet.
there,
And
yeah.
so um, bringing the families there too, I think it creates this like intimate environment where, like after a game a lot happens. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
you
And
kind of, it
whether
has
you
to,
win or lose as
yes.
well, it makes a huge difference on things.
Yeah, and it's like it's very quick interactions because it's like you have a line of like hundreds of people
Yeah.
wanting to meet you. So at training, it's a completely different atmosphere. So a lot of our players get to spend more like one-on-one time with them. They ask them
Mm,
lots of questions. I remember we had an honoree, Sarai, last year. Her She was adopted by a family in Overland Park, but her mom's from Honduras. Both of them
okay.
are. And so like, Roger, hey, that we have a family from Honduras, like,
Boom. Yeah.
and so they just made this beautiful connection,
Yep.
and
Yep.
just talking after practice, and her mom didn't speak English, and so just making
Having
the,
all that,
yeah,
yeah.
so
And
it's,
Roger's the guy. If
oh
I'm
my
to be
god,
honest,
oh my god,
that man will
he's
befriend a murderer. You know, like he's so friendly and
yeah,
he
just so
gets it.
funny. Yes. Yeah.
Roger gets his role as a professional athlete
Yeah.
to the fullest, right? So
Hmm.
that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
and you see like players, they're human too. They have
Yeah.
emotions, they've got families, they've got little
Hmm.
boys, little girls, they've got sisters, brothers. So all this stuff, I mean, you brought up the other side of it that I don't get to see, right?
Yeah.
Because you're there, but these players are like, dang,
And they make my job so easy because they always say yes.
yeah.
That's why I said people
But
don't say no to
they
me.
don't say no to you though.
I
They don't say no to you.
but I will say too, like they are so great with kids because
Yeah.
you can just, it's awkward sometimes when you bring like, hey, say hi to
Hey, say
people are like
yeah, go talk to this kid.
so our players are so great, and it's just like and we get parents all the time that are just like, they are so nice, and we're
Right.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
they are,
there
and
they
so
are. So you should stop saying that they suck when
right,
when
I'm like, be careful what you say on
right,
Twitter. I
exactly.
see you. So
Yeah, well, I mean, we're talking about a lot of the like interpersonal
yeah.
relationships and connections, and I feel like with the role you have, a lot of it has to be on networking, has to
Yes.
be on those interpersonal skills, and not just the ones that you have, but you pick up on the ones that other people have or don't have,
Mhm.
and I'm sure that plays a role in maybe, hey, we want to reach out to this business to help with, so and so, or we want to reach out to this person, or last time we
Mhm.
reached out to this club, man, they were, jerks, or,
Yeah.
so what are some things, I'd say like one or two bits of advice you
Mhm.
would offer anyone that maybe is trying to get into this type of role,
Yeah.
or that just has like a passion for um community engagement, giving back to those that not I hate saying less fortunate, but
Yeah.
giving back to those that aren't in the same position that you are in, or not even that you're in, but that your business
Mhm.
is in. Because let's be
Yeah.
honest, there's a lot of people that work for a big company
Yeah.
that aren't that big
Mhm.
company.
Yeah.
They just have that shield,
Access.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
access to all of that. So
Mhm.
someone that wants to be you, there's some
Mhm.
little girl that's listening, Chioma.
Yeah.
What's the advice you're telling her right now? She's in high school,
Yeah.
maybe middle school, just trying to figure it out.
One of the biggest skills that I use on a day-to-day basis is just knowing how to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
I would say because we live in such a highly technologically advanced society where
Yes.
you can communicate to people without talking to them.
Without ever opening your mouth or
Yes.
seeing them
I
in
know,
person.
it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
That is a lost skill.
Yes.
And that is AI can never replace a person who knows how to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I tell people all the time is just like, just know how to have conversations, know how to empathize with people, learn how to listen, especially in this work. We never want to go into an organization and be like, this is what we're going to do for you. This is what you need.
Yep.
It's let's listen,
Yeah.
let's understand what your needs are. And then also just be okay with saying, hey, this isn't a good fit,
Yep.
because that's another thing too is as much as there's a lot of positive and great, amazing stories in my role, there's a lot of like sad stories
Yeah.
too. So we have like I've worked with families where the kid has passed, or we get like I always get probably like 10 or 15 requests. Hey, can you sponsor this? Can you donate this? Can you do
Right,
this? Can you do
right,
that?
right.
Understanding how to say no in a nice way.
Yeah, yeah.
Detaching some emotion sometimes from saying no,
Mm-hmm.
because we have our pillars of focus, and if
Yep.
we are trying to help everyone, then we're helping no
No
one.
one, yeah. Yep.
So but yeah, I would say those are the two things: is knowing how to talk to people, and then knowing maybe how
When
to
to
say
say no, yeah,
no
when to say no.
politely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and I think that's a lost start as well. And I
yeah.
don't even know if it's a lost start. I just don't know if people
People
really
know how
ever
to.
learn how
They
to
don't know how
say
to do
no.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think
they just
that's
like
a,
walk around it and then
yep.
hope people forget. Yeah,
Yep, yep, and I can't stand that. I'm like, hey, just cut me off now. Rip the band-aid off.
yeah.
Let's say it. And it's funny. So I had Brian Bliss on, who's also with the organization, and
Hmm.
he was talking about the same thing, just the lost art of communication.
Yeah.
And I was telling him like I have no problem swinging for the fence and reaching out to anyone,
Anyone.
right?
Hmm.
Let's say Peter, for example, um, because I've been rejected so many times at the
Yeah.
bar that, like, hey, I can read body language.
Hmm.
I can talk to you and, okay, start to see, hey, I'll maybe try going down this
Yeah.
path. She's laughing.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I keep going. She's
Yeah.
not laughing. All right,
You're like,
throw a joke out.
yeah.
She doesn't laugh. Ah, God, now she thinks I'm stupid, right? And you just kind of have these conversations. And
Yeah.
when it comes to business meetings, I'll throw out something, but then how do they initially respond? What are
Hmm.
their, as you're talking more, what are they doing? Are they thinking? Are they looking at you? Have they checked
Yeah.
out? These are all these different cues and stuff that I've been fortunate enough to pick up. But man, like you said, that's a lost start,
Yeah.
and how to read the room. And like, man, you ever been in a meeting and someone just has no idea what the room is saying, and
Yes.
they walk in and you're just like, oh, woof.
You're like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh,
you almost
somebody
start to
help
feel
them.
embarrassment for
Yeah.
them, but then I'm like, that's a grown man, that's a grown woman. They gonna get through this one.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it's such a lost art. And I don't know how to tell people
How to
how
get
to
those
keep, yeah, how
skills.
to, other than like, you just got to keep talking to people. But if no one else in school is talking, right,
Yeah.
and hanging out after and doing all these things, right, like I can remember when I left school at one point, I didn't speak to anyone at that school until I went back there the next day. There
Yeah.
was nothing that was being said that,
Yeah.
and now you're never away from anything,
Hmm.
because you're always connected to something, or you're
Yeah.
always accessible.
Hmm.
Always accessible, I'll say.
And that is, ooh. Well, one thing that I'll say that can help teach that
Yeah.
is whether it's like serving on committees or serving on boards, like we met through United Soccer
Mm-hmm.
Coaches, like putting yourself in positions where you do have to have
Yeah.
maybe
Interact.
like
Yeah.
interact with people, you can
Yep.
have healthy conflict.
Yep.
There's free like clubs and organizations where you can practice public speaking,
Yeah.
where you
Was it like
can
Toastmasters? Wasn't
Toastmaster.
it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
like
I never knew where that name came from with
I
public
don't
speaking.
I don't know either. Yeah, and now colleges are actually like offering that as an elective course where you can, learn public speaking, or like
I
take
recommend everyone
a
should.
speech and debate
Yeah.
class, something
Everyone
because
should learn how to do, because
yeah,
public speaking is, it can be really nerve wracking. Once again, I'm very fortunate where, like,
yeah.
I don't care who's in front of
Yeah.
me, I can talk, right? And but man, to see like the anxiety that some of my classmates would have before a freaking presentation, like a college
Yeah.
presentation, we're in class with the same 14 people we've been in class with for 4 years now,
Yeah.
and you're still nervous to talk
Well,
to
it's one
to
of the
talk.
top 5 fears of people. So
Really?
it's more common than you think.
That's
So
yeah. That's
it's putting yourself in those positions to like train that muscle of just like it's okay, like you're not the only person that's nervous.
hmm
And what like when I go on stage and I speak, it's I have to I sometimes I rehearse what I want to say in the
yeah,
beginning,
yeah,
or I'll rehearse some cues.
yeah, yeah.
So if I get lost on
You
something,
can look and
I
boom,
have
bam.
a word where I'm just like, oh, that's my
That's
train of thought.
yep,
Okay,
yep.
okay, okay. So I'm not like completely memorizing my whole speech,
Right.
but I have
Little point.
keywords
Yeah.
that will help like reel me back in, because you never know. Sometimes people say some off the wall stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe your mic goes out or
Mm-hmm. No,
something
there's things.
happens.
Yeah, things that happen. I'm kind of like you. I feel like I have never been one to type a speech
Yeah.
because then you just read and you don't look and you don't connect. And
Mhm.
I've been told when it is time for when you do public speaking,
Yeah.
it's always good to have someone in the room that you can make eye contact with that you know
Mhm.
is there with you. They're almost
Yes.
like your rock,
Anchor.
your
Yeah.
anchor, yes.
Mhm.
And whether I tell Chioma to come into every public speaking thing I do and I'm to look for her, or whether it's just finding those people that you just genuinely connect with. You
Mhm.
see that they're looking at you, you look at them. 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, they don't know that
Yeah.
you're looking at them,
Yeah.
but it's just finding that comfort. And I'm like, I write notes. So it's, I've got, if I'm speaking on freaking soccer training for 8-year-olds, right?
Mhm.
I'll know what I want to say, but I'll have about 5 or 6 bullet points.
Yeah.
And I know that each one of those bullet points is a talking point that I can
Right.
speak on. So I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I know the content, so I don't need to memorize it. I
Yeah.
just need to, okay, this is one of the things. Boom, 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 boom. What's
Yeah.
the next? Okay.
Mhm.
Boom, 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 boom. But
Yeah.
then some people would be like, I just have 7 words written on this paper. WTF? What do you want me to do with this?
Yeah, no, and I've taken public speaking classes where people will just say like just have 1 or 2 words for each bullet point,
Yeah.
and then that'll be your train of thought. That way you're not like ruffling through too much
Right,
paper.
right.
But again, you still have to know your stuff,
You
like you
have to
said, you
know
know
it.
what you're talking about and know what those words mean to you.
Yeah.
So,
No, agreed.
yeah.
So okay, you I know you've played the game, right,
Mhm.
at some point. You've been involved with it for quite a
Yes.
while. Um, what would you say? I'm sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you didn't go into college
Mhm.
looking at this is what you would be
Yes,
doing.
that is correct.
Okay, so how did your educational background, or what were some things maybe in your early career
Mhm.
that, or not? Oh yeah, things that happened in your early career that kind of set you on pace for this.
Yeah.
And then what was your major first, and then let's kind
Yeah.
of start there and go forward.
Yeah, so my major was in nutritional sciences and
Okay,
then minored in chemistry, psychology. That I changed my major 3 times too. So
so that happened.
I
So
was nursing, then I switched to pre physiology, then I landed on nutritional sciences. But I was introduced to the game in either elementary school. One of my best friends, she would just play with guys
mhm,
like on the field outside, and I was just like, oh, that looks cool and fun. Like, let me try.
yeah,
And I was not the most technically skilled player, but I was fast and I was strong.
boom. That's hey,
And
that's half the American way right there. You know that
honestly,
that's half the American way right
so
there.
I was like, this is fun. And I've told this story before, but like my parents were pastors. And so, we were in church multiple times a week. And I wouldn't say like I didn't see the world, but soccer provided a way for me to see the world in a new lens, because now I had practices when I would be going to Bible study. We had
Mhm.
tournaments on the weekends. So I was now putting myself with hanging out with girls that, came from different backgrounds than me. Like you're in cars for hours, you
Yeah,
get to
for
learn a lot
hours
about
driving
people.
to Nebraska. Yep,
Yeah.
driving to
So
Iowa. Yeah.
so I just really just enjoyed that community, and a lot of the girls that I played soccer with back in the day are still some of my good friends. And
Okay.
so um, grew up in the Bay Area, California. My parents immigrated here from Nigeria. Grew up in the Bay Area, but I moved to Arizona when I was 16, and that was tough because
Yeah.
you're a teenager. Like my whole life, I'm leaving behind, and sports was the quickest way
The
for me to make
connection. Yeah.
friends.
Yep.
So I played soccer, I ran track, I played volleyball, And I just felt like sports provided this outlet for me to be a completely different person than I could be in the church, if that makes sense.
For
Like
sure.
I can have muscles, I can be loud, I
You can
can,
express yourself.
yeah,
Express yourself freely.
yeah. And
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
was being praised for it. So I was
yeah.
just like, this is
Right.
nice.
Oh
Let me
man,
see
yeah.
what's going on here. And then my senior year of high school, I injured my knee and then I
Okay.
couldn't run track my senior year and I had a soccer and track scholarship.
Well,
And so I they were just like, we don't know what's going on with your knee. You probably need surgery. And my mom, being a single parent of 6 kids, was kind of like, I don't know
yeah,
if we can figure
yeah.
this
No,
out.
yeah, yeah.
And so I
That's
was like,
life.
let me just go to school and
Yeah.
see if this would heal up and all that stuff. But I couldn't play soccer, got super depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard about FC Tucson and MLS preseason, and I was just like, this may be my way of
Back in.
connecting back to soccer. But I didn't know if I was gonna. I didn't know that there were jobs really in the
No,
soccer world.
no one does. I didn't either.
I
You're
just thought you had
you're
to be a
like one.
coach.
Yes, same. I'm like, wow, this is a business, huh? They
Yeah.
have marketers and analysts and
You have
COOs and yeah,
accountants,
like
you have
wait, what?
ticket sales, you
What?
have
No. Game
marketing,
day What's a game day
social
Yeah, like
media. Like,
yeah. Mind
so
blown. And before you finish it, I
yeah.
wanted to say this point when you brought up the last time.
Mhm.
FC Tucson, you mentioned PDL club,
Yes.
now USL2 club for
Yes.
the people that don't know
Yes.
the old school connection, but it
Mhm.
was PDL, now USL2.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Terry, okay,
Yeah.
so
And
you get with
so
FC Tucson, you're like, wow, there's jobs here.
I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
And I started off as an intern, just being a team liaison. I worked with Sporting, the Sounders, Portland, and Colorado.
Okay.
And, just filling up water bottles, bringing their stuff out to the field, doing their laundry,
Yep.
like folding
I mean,
towels,
doing all
keeping
the
the
inside.
training
Yeah.
room clean.
Yep.
And I was just like, I think I can learn something here. So my first year, I just wanted to be invisible and
Mm-hmm.
just observe.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was one morning where I came in an hour early and I was just like, I noticed that the athletic trainer for this team comes in 30 minutes before everybody else just to stock the fridge because their coach was very particular and would rotate the bottles filled a certain way.
Yep.
So I did that for him and he was like, oh my God, who did this?
All right.
And I was just like, this is something I can do that won't burn down
Yeah, yeah.
the facility.
Yeah, I won't mess anything up. Yeah.
It's something easy. And so I did that and I was just like, okay, if I can figure out how to be useful without burning the place down,
Yeah.
then people will like trust me with more responsibilities.
Yeah.
And so people kept asking me to do more. Over this summer, I'd make a point to try and visit any one of the teams because I was in Arizona and a broke college student. I just visited any team that was in LA.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm like, LA Galaxy's playing Chicago. Okay.
Boom.
LA's
Done.
playing Seattle. Hey, they were
Done.
here.
Yep.
And so yeah, and it just exposed me to so many different opportunities within the sports space because a lot of the jobs, yes, now we know of like the generic jobs,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of jobs that were created. Like I created my position
Right.
as a community impact director. My position when I started off in youth soccer, the competitions manager was the very first position of its kind for Sporting. And so I found myself almost hopping into new roles or creating a new role.
Yeah.
And that's where like I feel like the entrepreneurial spirit lives within sports because you figure out what your skills are. People see that you're trustworthy and you're a hard worker.
Yeah.
And then if you're just like, I can create something, people trust me.
Yeah.
This is how I can help, and boom.
Well, and I think you brought up something good that I hope the listeners are picked up on as well. And you said that one of the teams, the trainer got there 30 minutes early and did it. So you got there an hour early.
Yeah.
Right. And I think for me, I relate it to coaching. What makes an assistant coach so good is knowing what the head coach needs without being told.
Yeah.
You've got to see what are the needs without, because that person could have said, hey, I want you to get here an hour early and do this.
Right.
And I'll be honest, if someone told me to do that, I'd be like, yo, that's kind of whack, bro. Like, that's your job, right?
Yeah.
But if I go to do it on my own, I see, hey, there's a problem. Let me see if I can be a solution, right?
Yeah.
And now that trainer has one less thing to do.
Yes, and he has 30 minutes of his time to now focus on prepping players for.
Or 30 minutes of time to just sit there and not do anything. Drink his coffee, kick his feet up, talk to the missus, whatever that is. So I think that's so valuable, and that's how, I'm not gonna say the quickest way to get ahead, but that is a sure shot way, is to find problems and then bring solutions. No one wants to be told about a problem that they have,
Yeah.
unless you're telling me you have a solution that could solve it. Now,
Mhm.
if that solution doesn't solve it, okay, but at least I know that you're trying to fix things
Yeah.
and not just, hey, you got to do this. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. Well, why
Yes.
don't you say this is how you could fix it, or just fix it?
Mhm.
Boom. Now I'm like, all right, hey, Chioma gets it.
Right,
You
and
know?
that's a skill that a lot of people it's you can't teach that.
No,
So, and what a lot of leaders of companies say is that they want to hire solutions oriented people. So if you're a person who's always going to spot the problem and complain, they're just like, I don't need
I don't
another,
need that.
like,
Yeah.
I can go to Twitter for
Yep.
that.
Yep.
If you're here, like, how can you
How
provide
do we solve?
solutions?
How
Yeah.
do we fix it? Right? It's
Hmm.
that's oh man, I that's advice I would offer people. Even when I was coaching, when I'm in this business aspect, like, okay, we found the problem. We don't need to restate the problem 7 times.
Yeah.
Just okay, we got it. How do we
Yeah.
fix it?
Hmm.
Well, I still think stop thinking. We already
Yeah.
we established that. Let's fix it.
Hmm.
And there's not a lot of people that are like, hey, let's get to the end of it. Or let me roll up my sleeves and know, F it, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's not always the best way to handle things, but at the end of the day, I know that it's going to get done.
Right.
And when it's on you, the
You're
only
the
thing
only
that
person to
matters
blame. Yeah.
is that it
Hmm.
has to get done. There's
Yeah.
no unless I'm dead, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
That's just that's
Hmm.
how it goes. So, okay, I would be so remiss if I did not bring up
Yeah.
your own personal endeavors. Okay,
Yeah.
so you've got a business that you're running on your own. I'm not going to go into too much
Yeah.
detail, mostly because I know some, but I don't know it all, and I'm not going to
Yeah,
mess
yeah.
it
No, no,
up.
no. Oh,
All
good.
right, but let's start mindful appetite. I
Yeah.
believe, right?
Hmm.
We've talked. You and I have talked a little bit about. I can remember we were at Vested Coffee actually, and I was trying to get you to help out with an app thing I was doing.
Yeah.
But kind of explain what that is.
Hmm.
What was your motive or your kind of inspiration for creating it? Was it I saw a problem and I made a solution?
Yeah.
So let's just hear it.
Yeah. So going back to, playing soccer and then not being able to play anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
then I feel like every athlete struggles with this is life after sport. Your muscles start to atrophy and decline and
The
you start
stomach
to, yeah,
starts
you're just like,
to,
whoo, I feel
a little
it's a
more
little
tired
soft.
walking up those steps.
Yeah. And so, and because, when you're a teenager, you're just taught to fuel your body. I was playing track. I was running track, playing soccer. I stopped playing volleyball after my sophomore year because my parents were like, you need to just
Gotta
focus on
focus.
something.
Yeah.
But I was burning so many calories, and then all of a sudden I'm no longer burning those calories. And so I was still exercising,
Yeah.
but then I was just like, why am I,
But you're
what's
not
going on here?
exercising like you were being a
Yeah, I'm
two
not burning
sport at
2,000
yeah,
calories.
yeah, being a
Yeah.
two sport athlete.
So a lot of my former teammates were just like, "Oh, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that." And so that's when I switched my major to nutritional sciences,
Okay.
just to get curious as to how to like manage my own life.
Yeah.
And then all of the injuries that I suppressed over the years because I was just operating
Just
off of adrenaline
mm-hmm.
started to surface. So I'm just like, I'm 21 and why does my back hurt? Why does my knee hurt? Why do I have gut issues? All
Yeah.
these things. And so I started to study how can I heal my body from the inside out. And so took this approach with nutrition, studied nutrigenomics, which is just how your body can how food turns certain genes on and off,
Okay.
and studied nutrition anthropology, knowing that my family comes from Nigeria. Like, what are foods traditional to my roots that maybe I should be incorporating because we immigrated to the
And
United
yeah,
States and the
yeah.
food here is a little
It's a little different
questionable.
process and
So
yeah.
so that's where I was just experimenting, and then I found success with myself and started to share my journey online. And so
Um
that's when my former teammates started to reach out to me, and I was like, I think I can teach other people how to do this. So started Mindful Appetite in Arizona, but then when I moved to Kansas City, a lot of my clients that I was teaching in person were just like, we would still like to work with
yeah,
you.
yeah.
And so I shifted my business to an online platform and then created a wellness coaching program, and then quickly realized that it's not just athletes who deal with this. Literally a lot of
Everyone
everyone's
does. Yeah, everyone
going through
does.
some kind of life
Yeah.
transition of some point. And so my business just more is wellness coaching, working with small businesses or individuals, and then teaching them just how to take care of their bodies again.
Okay.
So it's
And we've branched from not just athletes anymore.
yeah.
This is
Mm-hmm.
anyone that can use your help
Yes, and
and their
so
check clears, right?
right. So it's and my thing is let's identify what your unhealthy habits are and replace them with healthy habits and try to make it as simple as possible. And then I do speaking engagements, so
Hmm.
I'm all around town just
Traveling.
talking
I've seen
online.
you. I've
Yeah.
seen you.
And that's more of what I've leaned towards just because my role being promoted as a director at sporting, like my time is just I'm just a lot more busier.
Yeah, yeah.
So I focus a lot more on speaking engagements and then I just work with a few clients here and there. So
So what's okay, so we're getting here to the end. I want to
yeah.
keep going in. I'm not gonna shut it down too quickly,
Yeah.
but trying to keep it contained. Chioma, it's 10 years from now.
Yeah.
10 years from now, okay? If you can, yeah, what was 2023? So 2033, about to be 2034. Don't even want to know how old I am then. What are you doing? You're living your
Yeah.
best life, right? You're out here
Mhm.
bossing,
Yeah.
saucing. What is it? Are you running a MLS club? Are you running a
Yeah.
sports team? Are
Yeah.
are you mindful appetite now is has you around the world? What's that best case scenario look like for you? And swing for the
Yeah.
freaking stars.
Uh so working in sports is it's a I don't want to say a 24/7 type of job, but
Yeah.
we don't have
There's no
regular
off time. Yeah,
hours.
yeah. Or
It's
off days.
yeah,
Even in the off season,
right.
your job still
Yes.
happens. Yeah.
And so I do my best to try and set boundaries around like, not answering emails after a certain time and, trying to take PTO here and there and just trying
Hmm.
to be consistent with that. So I do see myself still working in either the sports space or pursuing
Okay.
the wellness brand full time. But I would say I still have a heart for working with like high performing individuals, which is
Hmm.
what I love so much about working in sports
Yeah.
is I work with people who we will turn over ideas from Monday this idea happened and then sometimes by the next week a full idea would pop out and it's on social.
Yeah.
Or we're working with athletes who are committed to being the best that they can be,
Hmm.
or we're working against the clock of like MLS has one of the longest seasons
Yeah.
in,
Yeah. Yeah.
in sports.
Yeah.
So it's just like you have to quickly brush off failures. You have to quickly brush off losses and just kind of you have this mentality of like, okay, what's
What's
next?
next?
What's next?
What's
What's
next?
next?
Yeah.
So I love that part of sports. On the wellness side, I do think that there's um, the world is just going to be in a not a, I don't want to say like a worse place, but there's going to be a need for more direction with how people can, be less stressed.
Yes.
And I think that's the part
Yes.
that I love. Like, I geek out over teaching people how to invite more calm into their life. And
Right.
I do think that it's still possible working a high performing job and still being able to invite less stress in your life.
Agree.
So,
Agree. And
so I didn't
yeah,
answer your question, but I'm not sure
you're
exactly.
not sure. It's
But
something. Maybe it's
yes,
a little bit of both, right?
yeah,
Who knows? And that's okay. I mean, that question is so loaded because it's like the same thing when you ask a 16-year-old, "What do you want to major in? What do you want to do every
yeah,
day for the rest of your life?" I don't know. What is what when you ask, if Roger and Graham are at their end, right? You
hmm,
ask someone like one of those two who've been playing professional sports
yeah,
for their whole life or
hmm,
been playing a sport for their entire life, professional for at least the last 15 years.
yeah,
Now, what do?
yeah,
Their life has been freaking set from, hey,
hmm,
8 a.m., you need to be in the facility until at least 1 p.m.
yeah,
From 8 to 1, you've got stuff taken care of.
hmm,
Then you get home, okay, you have a few hours, do whatever, go to bed, wake up, do it all over again. You have an
hmm,
appearance, right? But now it's like your whole day is just open,
yeah,
and I know that that's a transition to make. And I brought it up on another podcast episode. Someone like you and myself, I think we had it easier in a way of our our careers. We knew they were done,
hmm,
and we could still then go to college and go through college preparing
yeah,
to like be a non-athlete.
hmm,
So you kind of everyone has to deal with leaving the game, and
Mm-hmm.
for more times than not, it happens not on your own accord.
Yeah.
An injury, you don't make it in college, you get cut from a team, your contract,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So it's the younger you are, the longer you have to kind of deal with, okay, boom, I'm not going to
Right.
play. Because most people that leave high school and go on to college don't play in college.
Mm-hmm.
So you're with all these people, oh, I mean, none of us
Yeah,
made it,
I
right? But
know.
then you're one of the ones that have made it and always makes it and always, and you get to the MLS, you get to someone like Roger, like Graham. They've been in the 1% of their
Mm-hmm.
age group of
Yeah.
people forever. And now
Mm-hmm. It is so rare what they've accomplished.
yeah, like and I'm like, and he's
Yeah.
still walking,
Yeah.
still freaking can put in minutes
Mm-hmm.
into an MLS match. So, stuff like that is what's next? And it's such a weird question because you hope to have an answer, but then you also know like you could give an answer and then tomorrow that whole
Yeah,
thing gets thrown out the window.
exactly. And I'll say too, like I'm at a place in my life where I trust that whatever happens next, I have the tools, and I've just had such a great experience and time within the sports world
Right.
that whatever is next, like I'm open to.
Yeah.
So I'm just, yeah, who knows?
Who
Well, 10
knows?
years,
We'll
well,
see. We'll
yeah.
see. I love it. I love it. Well, we're gonna get ready to wrap it up here.
Okay.
Um, I like to end the podcast with, is there anything that you would want to say? Anything that maybe
Yeah.
we didn't hit on? Anything, a cause you want to bring up? Any final thing? And to throw into that,
Hmm.
is there anything with your job
Hmm.
that you feel people don't know about, like the behind the scene things, right? Like when we had Brian on and he's talking about doing contracts and what all goes into a
Yeah.
freaking signing a player, right? Like that's something I was like, goodness gracious,
Yeah.
So we're gonna end it. Your final say. What is something you want us to know about you? What's
Yeah.
the mic drop? Give it to us.
That's a lot. I'm just like trying to like
Where do I go? I know this is a
yeah.
whole nother podcast
Yeah.
episode.
Well, I'll say with one part of my job that people may not fully understand is, again, they see all of the fun highlights and all the good we get to do, but understanding that there's also a flip side to that,
Yeah.
that the work we do is very mentally and emotionally exhausting.
Yeah.
So we're hearing stories of people who've passed and
Yeah,
people who
yeah.
are
Gone
just
through some
going through,
crazy,
yeah.
yeah.
And so I'll get a call from a parent as I'm walking into a meeting of like, hey, just want to let you know that this happened. And you're like,
Hey, Bob. Sorry, I'm sorry,
I
I'm
was
late.
I was
And you got to jump. Yeah,
are you okay? Oh, oh,
right.
oh.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah,
So it's reminding myself to give myself time to, like mentally process things, reminding my team that I'm like, hey, like, you need to take a day off, like, please feel free to.
yeah.
Just reminding them that sometimes these days get heavy. And in Missouri, there's close to 39,000 nonprofits. On the
Okay.
Kansas side, there's close to 20,000 nonprofits. So again, saying no, I think that's another part
Yeah,
too, is I have to constantly say no so I
yeah.
can say yes to the
To
things
the
that
one. Yeah.
matter to our organization. So there's a lot of like downsides to what we do, but again, like the happy parts definitely outweigh that. But there's a lot of things I think people just are like, your job
It's
is
so great. You get to
fun
hang
all the
around pro. You get to
time.
hang out with pro soccer
And
players
I'll
all
tell you,
the
there's a
time.
lot that goes into this, and there's
Yeah.
trust that's built around there. And
Yep.
I've been in this industry since 2011, starting off as an intern. So I didn't just pop up.
Pop in and say,
Yeah,
"Hey, you guys, what's up,
I need to
Alan?
do this.
Let's
Yeah,
go grab some drinks after,
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
See, yeah.
exactly.
Well, no, and I think there's something to be in that field.
Hmm.
I forgot I was saying it to someone like everyone wants to hang out with pro athletes
Yeah,
and celebrities and all that. Yeah, that's really cool, but like everyone can't,
yeah,
and not everyone knows how to. And I
yeah.
think that's a really big thing. Is like I had a buddy, man, when I first started hanging out with like Roger, and this was when Dom was with the team, Sooney
Hmm.
Sod, and we're going out, and I had a friend, and I'm not gonna say his name, but I'm like, hey, bro, like we're gonna hang out with some of the sporting guys, like, and he played soccer in high school. I was like, yo,
Yeah,
like just be chill, man. No, bro, what do you mean? Hey, be
yeah.
chill. Don't just, and I'm like, just be, bro, I'm good, right? So we get there, we grab a drink, and we're sitting there, and dude goes up to, I think it was Dom, was like, "Hey Dom, man, good game, but you really missed two of those sitters."
Oh no.
I looked at
Yeah.
him, and luckily, like Dom was he was a
Yeah.
good guy, right? But I'm just kind of getting into this little friend group. And I
Yeah.
looked at my friend, and I'm like, "Hey,
That's not what you
that's
say.
not." And
Yeah.
or then, man, when I used to play in high school, I was, and I'm like, "All right, so we're just gonna head out.
Yeah.
All right, come on, buddy,
Yeah.
we're gonna sit this one out tonight." And it's like knowing, like, you wanting to take pictures with them. Let me get an
Yeah.
autograph. I was forever afraid to ask them for tickets,
Mhm.
to games, because I'm like, man, I don't want to be
You
that
don't want to be
guy.
that.
Knowing that
Mhm.
they get free, you learn some
Yes,
stuff, but
you
like,
do.
but we're circling back. You got to know how to hang out with them. You got to know how to be in that realm, whether it's hanging out in person, whether it's working with them,
Yeah.
because you just don't want to be that person.
And another part too is I work with the coaches. I work with the technical staff. I meet with the coaches of just like, hey, here's our community
Yep.
impact strategy for the year. Like, are there any things you want us to focus? Like, so it's more than just. Of course, people see the players and see
Right,
that,
right.
but there's so much more to that. And so again, building trust and knowing that okay, if we're working on a player appearance, they know that it's going to be a well organized event.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we never just want to send a player in like,
Throw them out the
hey,
price chopper.
have fun, and you're
Right.
just like, ugh.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's there's a whole behind the scenes of systems and operations and trust and
Checks and
just
balances, things
yeah.
that have to happen before anything happens.
And then also having to be the bad guy if I'm at an appearance and I see that there's a fan being very inappropriate with one of our players. It's my job to not have. I don't want the player to feel like he has to be the bad guy.
Right, right.
That's my job. So it's
Yep.
just like, hi,
Yep.
ma'am, can you back off? Like I say, obviously in a nice
In
way. And,
yeah, you're right, right.
but there's like a science to it. It's
Yeah.
like there's an exit. Hey, hi, thank you so much. Hey, can I get you for a
Let's
second? Oh, we're gonna exit.
we're gonna
because
just
you've been here for 2 hours and this
Yep.
appearance was only supposed to be an hour.
Yep.
And you have kids that we want you to get home to.
Yep, and they don't want to be here.
Yeah.
They
and
want to
again,
go.
our players are so great. So they are just like, no, it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
And they're
right.
just like, no, but I told
No,
you.
but it is a
that
big.
this is-
Yeah,
yes.
it is a big deal
Yeah.
because if I told you an hour and a half and now we're here 2.5 hours,
Yes.
next time I ask you for an hour and a half,
You're gonna be like, oh, she doesn't keep
yep,
track of time.
yep.
She keeps me out there.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yep, I get that. All right, so Chioma, final words.
Final words. It's an exciting time to be in soccer with the World Cup coming here, with Sporting's like surprising playoff run.
Yes,
with the KC Current Stadium
New
opening
stadium.
up. I don't know if you saw, but Copa America.
2 games.
2 games.
Missouri and Kansas. What? How crazy? How crazy was that? Freaking Arrowhead and Children's Mercy.
So it's just like it's such an exciting time to be in sports. So if you do want to enter this space, like I be in it for the long haul, be in it for the good reasons, but again, just trying to build those relationships while you're there, just being an authentic person, knowing how to communicate with people, being helpful, useful, solutions oriented. And there's a place for you here.
There we go. Listen, you just summed up the entire podcast right there. So when I go to do this promo video edit, this is the moment that I'm going to get, and you hit everything right there. Chioma, thank you so much for being a guest. I kept you a little longer, but I didn't. I don't want to be
It's less than 90 minutes.
It is less than
a player appearance.
Yes,
okay.
I did not want to be the person to say a time and then it's over.
Yeah.
But no, thank you for coming out. I don't want this to serve as our coffee because we're still supposed to meet up. But I want to thank you. Like every guest that I've had on so far, just they're in different realms and you just learn different things about the same game that I thought I've known my whole life and then I've been a part of. But then you're like, wait, what's the business side? What's the nonprofit side? What's the coaching side? What's the sports broadcasting side? And you all have your own stories, but what's still so great is that everyone is still connected. We're all part of the same club. Well, you're part of the same club. We're all in it. We all work around the same types of people where we kind of understand different things just from being in it, right? And
Yeah.
what as Lil Wayne said, what's understood doesn't have to be explained.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that we just give, you and I
We
especially,
just
if
get,
you
yeah.
just look at each other, like you just know.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to have you in here. This is you're one of the very few in person podcast people, so this is still kind of new for me.
No.
But thank you so much for being a
Thank you.
guest.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
for everyone that's listening, everyone that's watching, this has been season 6, another episode of the No Stress Midwest podcast. We want to thank you, and we will catch you on the next episode. Cheers.